And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 51. It's a 2 QCast evening here as we are in NCAA tournament week. We're going to talk more men's basketball, first weekend action. And this one is with a familiar QCast guest. I should have gone back to see how many appearances. It's either 3 or 4. But Coach Steinmetz, you're a multiple time QCaster. Welcome back. How the heck are you doing?
Thanks. I'm glad to be part of your two-a-days.
It's going to be a fun one here, and as I told you off the air, because I was in Houston today for work, had to drive 4 hours home, did another QCast, and now this QCast. This is the second show I've ever done with basically zero prep. I figured if I can't interview you without prep, I should not have this podcast because I know you pretty well, and I feel like I got a lot of questions for you that I do not need written down. Are you cool with that, Elliot?
Let's do it.
First of all, how cool is it to be back in the NCAA tournament? Just before we get into the Farmingdale State game and all that, it's like how cool is it to be back in the mix?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Obviously, I mean, it's exciting, and I think it's been 2 years out, right? I think we were out, the last 2 years, and you kind of miss it when it's going on and watching it from home. And it's awesome that we've been able to be there now. I think it's 4 out of the last 8 years. For a small school and a small conference, it's a pretty good accomplishment for our guys, and obviously the continuity of the program. So definitely excited, really excited.
We've talked a lot about this group you have, and I know that you felt that this group was capable of getting into the NCAA tournament. I remember talking to you in the preseason that you really liked this group. Talk a little bit just about like the development of this nucleus over time.
Yeah, we've had these guys now 3 years. They're all pretty much all, the bulk of the class, I should say, are juniors. And we kind of we threw them into the fire as freshmen. We were starting, I believe, 4 freshmen from this class 2 years ago. The hope that would, with the hope that they would develop, we knew they would take some lumps, especially with the schedules we've been trying to put together, and that happened. They certainly did take their lumps, and last year was a little bit more of a kind of a step forward. We got to the championship game of the conference, which I thought was a great step. We weren't healthy, not sure it would have mattered. Farmingdale was really freaking good last year. And this year we were able to kind of get over the hump, and it wasn't without ups and downs, and we're certainly not without flaws. But we got a bunch of fighters, and they really they willed themselves into that tournament this year.
You're 18 and 10, I believe. Is that correct? 18 and 10.
I
Okay,
think
you're
that's right.
18 and 10, and you've played a great schedule. Talk about the confidence that you go into the NCAA tournament with, based on the fact. I mean, you've played Tufts already. You've played Wesleyan. You've played Trinity. You've played what, NYU. Ridiculous non-conference schedule. So talk about like how that plays into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, we got a lot of criticism for that schedule, especially with some of the results this year. But I mean, look, we're doing it again next year. That's the plan, and I don't see any reason to stop. Our goals are to play in the NCAA tournament. Our goals are not to win, 23 regular season games necessarily. If both of those things happen, fantastic. We're in a different spot. But we feel it's very good for our guys' development. We feel it's very good for conference prep, obviously, and to go into conference play, having played those games. But most importantly, I remember our first year in the tournament, I think it was 2017 or 18, and we played at York. And they had real size. And we'd never seen it. Our guys had never seen it. They'd never seen a team like that. And it was just a very different experience. And we hung tight for a while. But ultimately, obviously, first of all, they were better and stronger. But there was a little bit of a shock factor to it as well. And being there. And I think, we go into an NCAA tournament, and yeah, our opponent's going to be big and they're going to be tough, but we've literally seen them. And we've seen a lot of teams like them. So I don't think we have that same sort of first
Right.
time or fear factor to it, which I think is the advantage of that schedule.
I had Poppers on the show, and I think I asked him a question that was sort of like, boy, the schedule has been unbelievable the last few years. Like, what's the difference? I think his answer was like he answered like Poppers was the difference. I mean, you guys have this guy in some kind of scheduling role, coach. Like, does he have an actual title, or is he just making calls on his own, or how's this working?
He's just such a good kid. He's so interested in the program and helping advance it and all those kinds of things that, whatever we ask, he really just jumps in to help. And he's got a real knowledge at this point of what's going on in Division 3, and maybe he puts a little too much effort into figuring out who's going to be good the following years. One of the problems we had scheduling a few years ago was we tried to schedule based on teams' prior results, and we would run into either guys transferring out or
Right.
guys getting hurt, or teams just unloading a couple of guys or graduating guys, and suddenly we think we're playing a top 50 or a top 25 team, and they're not, and it kind of hurt us down the stretch, in terms of seeding and all that. And Poppers has kind of changed that for us. So he's got it all figured out, and he was able to help us put together a schedule the next few years that I think is going to be really really tough and really special.
And he's coaching some team, right? Like
Yeah.
I need to get game film. I don't know if I could watch those on stream or something, but do you know anything about his
I
coaching
don't know if you want
style?
to. I don't know if you want to. I don't know if we count him as part of the coaching tree or not, but yeah, I know he's running motion. I know he's running motion with those guys, which is great. But yeah, he's got a good little JV team over there at the Ramaz school in the city.
So shout out to Poppers. Wanted to make sure we covered him. Let's talk about this Farmingdale State game.
Yeah.
What an amazing game and what an amazing finish. You win 81-78. So let's first like you guys were down pretty big in the first half, and what was the deficit at halftime?
Halftime was 14.
So you're in a win or go home game. What's the
Right.
conversation at halftime? What are you thinking at halftime heading into that second half?
Yeah, I mean, it was a 1 point game. I want to say with about 4 or 5 minutes left in the half. And Max kind of took I don't even know what happened with him, but he somehow got hurt, came out of the game, and we just kind of fell apart. We lost our focus for a little bit. And obviously we're playing a really good team. They went on a run, and I think it was an 11-0 run right away, real
Yeah.
quick, and then it finished obviously with a 14-point lead at half. We walked into halftime, we kind of were a little bit down on the guys, and we kind of got rid of we came into the game very positive, and with a lot of trying to have a lot of positive energy, but we felt like we were seeing a lot of the same flaws we had during the year kind of creep up, and we let them know that at halftime, and we kind of challenged them. One of my assistant coaches brought a lot of energy into halftime as well for in terms of the defensive side. But we challenged them. We said, hey, we've been here before. We were literally in that gym a couple months ago, down a similar deficit late in the game, came all the way back only to lose by one. This time, thankfully, we were able to get over the hump in the second half late.
Talk about the ending. It just first before we get to the final shot that won the
Yeah.
game, just the final few minutes of the game were very intense. Talk about the stretch run and putting yourself in position to win the game first, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, we thought the key coming out at halftime, as coaches, we thought the key was to kind of keep it under 20 early, like never let it get to 20. And I think it got as high as 16, but it never got past there. And we kind of kept creeping. It was kind of like we'd get it to 12 and it would go back to 14. Then we'd get it to like 11 or 10, and then it was 12 or 13. And it just was this kind of constant grind that our guys were going through, where they were just outplaying them like 2, 3 minutes at a time, and for a change putting together stops, which was huge. So, as we started to kind of creep up to the 7 minute mark, we look up and it's like an 8 point game, and we're like, all right, if we're at 7, we're in a pretty good spot. And then, I think Zevi goes to the line with 5:03 left, and we're down 7. He goes to the line for 2, and we're like 5 at 5 is a good spot to be. Of course, he misses one of his foul shots that he rarely missed the whole year. But we're down 6 at 5, and make a couple of shots here and there, and suddenly we look up and it's like 2.5 minutes left, and it's I think it was 77-74 for a nice amount of time. I think we
Right.
had 3 or 4 possessions in that stretch where we got stops and took good shots and missed.
And let's talk about that crazy final play. I mean, so I've seen Zevi play in person. Unfortunately, he lit up my Titans at the Shirk Center, and somehow we survived because I think he missed the easiest shot he took all night, like a 15-footer. Otherwise, it was
Right.
nightmare city for this reporter. But Zevi had 37 points in the game,
Yeah.
and he hits this, I don't know, like fading 3-pointer from the right wing off the dribble. Someone on Twitter was like, said he made the exact same shot, I think against Farmingdale State, maybe the year
last
before.
year.
It seemed like it was at
Yeah.
your place, and someone was like, "Well, I wonder if this is like an actual named play." And I suggested it's just called "Give the ball to Zevi and get out of the way." Like, talk about that play, coach. Like, is this something? Is this great coaching? Did you draw this up, or
No.
did you just give the
Yeah,
ball to a
that is
great
that
player?
that is not great coaching. That is, I mean, first of all, it is a shot he's made not just last year, against Farmingdale. He probably made that shot 5 or 6 times this year at the end of a shot clock. It's kind of something he works on. It actually is. He does crazy stuff when he shoots and when he's working on his shooting and all that stuff. He works on his footwork. He works on these crazy situations. He's a gym rat, so he's in there and he's shooting different kinds of shots. But no, this was not a called play. This was not give it to Zevi and get out of the way. It honestly was a pretty low IQ play. It wasn't a good shot and it wasn't good timing for that kind of a shot. We purposely choose not to call timeout in that spot. Philosophically, it's just not what we do. Down two like that with about 20, 25 seconds left, we like to believe our players are going to make better plays or decisions than we're going to be able to draw up in the huddle. And we also don't want to give the defense a chance to kind of get
Right.
set because if the defense gets set there, they're probably doubling Zevi, right? And at that point, he's got 34 points, and he's kind of brought us all the way back. I don't think they're letting him get a look. So we choose not to call timeout. We're thinking we're going to come down, run a nice set of motion. We've been getting pretty good back cuts and back screens and getting the layups. We only need two to tie it. So we figure we can run a good 10, 12-second possession, have enough time if we miss to either have a second opportunity or foul and still have enough time to come back down again. And Zevi just, I guess wasn't really thinking the same way we were. He was kind of looking over. He said I heard him say afterwards, he was looking over, kind of see if we were going to call a timeout to set something up. And when he didn't, he's like, I'm just going to make a shot.
It was unbelievable. It looked like a great atmosphere there, by the way. It looked like it was packed and that it
It
was
was.
loud. I mean, what was that environment like at Farmingdale State?
It was great. I mean, I mean, both sides had a tremendous amount of fans, and we always travel pretty well. It was nice to kind of pack that gym on Long Island and really have it be loud, but it was cool. You could really feel that energy the whole way through, and it was from both sides. Like every time they made a run, it got loud on one side.
Sure.
Anytime we made a run, it got loud on our side. It was cool. It was cool to be part of that.
So Monday the bracket comes out. You guys know you're in, and you find out that you're heading to Tufts,
Yep.
and so you're matched up with the host, the Jumbos, and then on the other side of that is Redlands and St. Joseph's of Maine. Um, there's been some chatter about the bracketing and whether or not they should have had Yeshiva and Tufts play for a second time. There was other situations around the country where they avoided rematches. I personally, I don't have a big problem with it. You've played such a good schedule. You've played so many of the best teams out east: Wesleyan, Trinity, Tufts, NYU. You can't avoid them all necessarily. Technically, they could have. They could have done this differently. Are you upset with the bracket, or what's your take on this?
No, I don't care. I never care about stuff like that. It doesn't matter to me. If we're gonna play somebody good. First of all, we're what, the equivalent of a 14 seed, right? We're an 18 and 10
Yes,
team that played a really good schedule, but we didn't really win those games. We not only that, we got blown out in a lot of those games. So it's not like we did anything during the season to deserve a two line or a three line. We're a clear four line. I don't think it's even a question. So we're gonna play somebody really good. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't make a difference. It's all matchups. Look, Tufts at least, you know, made our scout easier because we've done one already. So it's a
right.
little bit of a familiar team. At the same time, that's a really good team, and Brandon does an awesome job there. And they're gonna also have their own scout and have played us and have familiarity, so they have that advantage as well. So it's gonna be tough, but it was gonna be tough no matter what.
It's a contrasting styles game. The first one that was on January 2nd was an 8 point game. So you guys
Yeah.
lost at home by 8 points. And you are two very different teams. It's almost a little bit like when Illinois Wesleyan and Yeshiva play. It's like two different
Right.
worlds getting together on the basketball court. I feel like as an outsider that watched the first game and that has watched your team play a lot, um, I feel like they have things that you cannot guard, period. But I also think that they have a very big Zevi problem and a Max problem. I think that your quickness and ability to score the ball, to shoot the ball is something that gives them a lot of trouble. I mean, do you see it that way, Coach? Like both teams have legitimate matchup problems in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the benefit of having a kid like Zevi is that the idea is if he's playing well, everybody has a Zevi problem.
Right.
If he's making shots, then everybody's got a problem. It's, because he can just release the ball so quickly and off balance, it's tough. And if you try to take him out of the game, you really need to do a lot to take him out of the game, and it allows other guys to really have an easier time scoring. So, we've been able to score this year for the most part, obviously taking away a couple of games early, like Trinity and NYU, where we were just kind of finding ourselves and not really able to put up points. But we haven't really had a hard time scoring this year overall. I mean,
Right.
there are teams that are better defensively and teams that aren't. Tufts is one of those teams that I think is probably going to really make it hard for us to score. On top of that, on the other side of the ball, they're a lot bigger than we are. For us, I think we're going to have to really limit second opportunities. That's not easy. I mean, Josh is 6'11" and can play, so he's going to hurt us in
Yeah.
there. And their guards are pretty big and pretty strong, and they've
Yep.
got some kids who can really shoot the ball. There's a lot there. So, I think you're right. I'm sure coach at over at Tufts right now is looking at our film and saying, "Hey, we have to guard these guys." But I don't know if he's sitting there as scared as I am probably to have to guard some of those big kids. But we'll figure it out.
You've got three guys that lead your team, and Zevi Samet, Max Zakheim, and Or Sanjeski. I hope I said all those correct. I think by now I'm saying them correct, Coach. I feel confident that I am. You also, though, outside of those three, you have a very deep team. You have other dudes that are making big plays for you outside of Zevi, Max, and Or. Talk about the group outside of those three.
Yeah, this is honestly the deepest group I've ever been able to play. I don't know that it's necessarily it's one of the more talented teams we've had for sure. I don't know if it's as top heavy as like a Ryan Thurell, Gabe Leifer type of
Right.
team, but the depth is a major difference in a lot of these games where we're able to kind of take some of those guys and like Max and Zevi and Oren and get them on the bench for a few minutes here and there so they're at their best without really losing too much. We've had a lot of good contributions. We have Luke Cronin who transferred in
Yep.
from a Division One school last year, who's given us some size that we generally lack. He's helped us obviously on the boards, protecting the rim, and as he's kind of gotten more comfortable in the offense, he's had games where he's been able to provide a lot of offensive spark. Most importantly, he's a terrific passer with a high IQ, and with what we run, getting those guys in the post with the ball who can pass it
Yep.
really really gets us going. And he's been good with that. There's F.E. Freinloch, who's been coming off the bench, who played big minutes in the last two games in the semis and the championship. Just been a real force defensively. He's probably 6'3", but his arms are like 7 feet. And he's just extremely athletic and quick, and he's does just really good job staying in front of guys and when he doesn't, catching up and blocking shots. So he's been a big factor for us. And then there's Yoav Oselka, who's had numerous 20 and 15 games this year where he's just able to put the ball in the basket and rebound. And he's young, he's a sophomore, so he's got a lot of developing to do still to get consistent at it. But he's been another big guy for us. Another 6'7", who's been able to guard, and we've been able to. The thing with Yoav that is unique is he's extremely quick and athletic, so it allows us to play him on guards if we want to, and kind of put size on a guard where we think it bothers them.
Another factor, Coach, is the fact that in the first game, I believe that Orr basically didn't play. Didn't he just play like a minute or two, or did he not play at all?
I think he played about a minute. Yeah, he was going through some stuff back then, needed a little bit of a break from us. And we were able to kind of get things worked out and getting back with us in a really, really positive way. And I think since then he's really been one of our best players. He's really, I think he to me has always been the guy that kind of uncaps our potential to a certain extent because he
Yeah.
has so many things that he does well.
Yeah, kind of a what's he 6'5" ish, 6'6" is great size, kind of a wing player, does a little bit of everything. So that when you're looking at, your fans want me to set the cue line, and I'm factoring in it was 8 points, but he basically didn't play. So I have not yet released the queue line, but these people are all over me, Coach. Let's talk about these Yeshiva fans before we let you go for the night. By the way, what's your take? This is this the most passionate group of fans in Division Three? Let's start with that. It's a passionate group, fair?
Very, very fair. Yeah, they're great. I mean,
And
I literally can go from being like the worst coach in the world to the best coach in the world every 24 hours. It's great.
that's very fair. I see that. I see that on Twitter. Yeah, the fact that you guys are in the tournament makes the tournament more fun because I mean, Yeshiva Nation right now is out in full force. I think some people thought maybe you'd be a 2 seed or something like this. There was that. They're mad at the pairings. There's just a lot going on, Coach. That they bring a lot of life to this party for sure. I know that they were asking you beforehand if maybe you were a strong Pool C candidate. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got a lot of those DMs and emails asking if, hey, what happens if we don't win the tournament? Are we going to get in? What's our seating going to be like? Yeah, they're great and they're passionate and they want to see us keep playing, obviously. I don't think a lot of them understand kind of what goes into getting into this tournament. And I think even more of them don't understand the amount of talent there is around the country in Division Three.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, though, regarding your fans, the ticket situation will be tough. I think it'll be tough to get in there, right? People are going to have to go probably get there early because it sounds like there's no pre-sale. Is it all just sold there?
That's my understanding is they're selling at the door. Yeah.
Okay. And so they're not handing you a certain amount to say you've got these, sell these. Everything's at the door.
I think there's like a comp list for probably families, like for
Okay.
player families and coaches' families and stuff like a certain amount. But after that limited amount, it's get there early.
And that's not a terribly big gym, I want to say, right? Seating wise, that's not big at all.
Yeah, I've never been there, honestly. We've played them twice in the last few years. Both have been at home. I think we're scheduled to go there next year, actually, believe it or not. So we'll end up having played them like 4 times in 3 years or something like that, which is cool. But I've never actually been to their gym. My understanding is it's like I mean, it's bigger than ours. It's probably 12, 1300 is my guess.
Yeah, I think it's just over 1,000. It's a cool looking gym. They have like these stairs that like go
Like a
up. And
mezzanine level or something.
I'm always wondering what happens at the top of these stairs. There's a door, and I spend the game thinking about what's up there. So I think you're going to enjoy playing there. They are very talented. Coach Linton does a great job
Yeah.
with them, and they're big, so you're going to have that. But I think by now you guys are just always used to that, right? Like when you guys play one of these elite teams, you've done this now many times where you're giving up tons of size in the low post, and it's
Yeah.
something you're sort of used to, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we attack it in interesting ways also. So it is something we're used to. It's something we've obviously game planned for now for a good 7 or 8 years. It's and then we'll make decisions during the course of the game if sometimes we look at it as, hey, let's make a team adjust to us and play small. So it can go both ways.
Should be a lot of fun. I mean, again, this is such a great time of year. I'll be going up to University of Chicago to watch the Titans play. Certainly, we'll be scoreboard watching all across the country. Very interested. I do think that the Tufts Yeshiva game is one of the more interesting ones because I do think I'm not sure either team can stop the other team offensively. I really like 82-74 last time. I think this is a game that's way up in the high 70s or 80s. You're going to have trouble with their bigs. And if Zevi's shooting it and Max is doing his thing, and then the other guys, I just feel like this is going to be a really high scoring game. Now, me saying that it's probably going to be 48-46. So what do I know? But
I hope not.
I really do appreciate Coach you jumping on us. We put this together really quickly. Busy week for you, obviously, trying to get your team ready. When do you head there to Tufts?
Tomorrow morning we're going.
Well, best of luck to you. It should
Thank
be
you.
an amazing game. Thanks for all the time you spent on the QCast. Again, I don't know if this is your fifth appearance, your fourth. It's one of those two. You're one of the leaders in QCast appearances, and then
Oh,
we for sure will have another appearance next year because it's an Illinois Wesleyan Yeshiva year,
that is true.
correct?
That is right. I'm excited for that.
And I think you have. Well, we'll get into that later, but I
I
think
think
you're
we'll
going to
be
have
at full
most of these
capacity in the
guys.
gym too.
What's that?
I think we'll be at full capacity this time in the
Oh
gym.
yeah. So instead of having every seat full, you'll have every seat full. Is
Yeah,
that correct? That's
exactly.
and you're going to have a good group of these dudes back next year, correct?
Well, pretty much all of them. Yeah.
and we lose a bunch of guys. So the Q line, it sounds like it's going to be Yeshiva by 7 or so. So we'll cross that bridge next year, Coach.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts here? Because we know that Max Nation is tuning into this, and they really are waiting for Coach Steinmetz's final thoughts here.
My
Division
final
Three
thoughts.
Nation definitely tuning in. What would you close us out with, Elliot, on the QCast today?
So it would be hard for me to close out with basketball thoughts. So what I'll say is, we've had a tough year and a half, obviously, not just as with what's going on in Israel, but as a Jewish university and as Jewish kids and human beings in general. We've always talked with our guys about using basketball as a platform. That if it's not important outside of basketball in a bigger way, then it's kind of a waste of time. It's just a sport. And one of I think the most important things about for us in terms of continuing to win games and to put ourselves out there and to get more exposure is the ability to talk about the fact that there's still hostages sitting in Gaza that Hamas is holding hostage, and our people in Israel are still fighting a war for their survival. And there's a lot of uneducated kids and faculty members on a lot of college campuses. Thankfully, when you deal with the sports world, you don't deal with a lot of that stuff when you travel, but
Right.
it's out there and it's bad, and we're seeing it obviously raised its head now in Barnard and Columbia this week, and in a lot of other schools across the country. And just it's important to keep the word out there, and people should really read facts and not TikTok and Twitter.
Very well said. And always appreciate how outspoken you are, and always supportive of everything that you're sharing regarding things being bigger than basketball, obviously. And I know that it's been a really rough period of time. So just thinking about you, I appreciate everything you do, appreciate everything you say. And while basketball isn't the most important thing in the world, we'll certainly be rooting for this Tufts Yeshiva game to be an awesome one. It's an early game, right? Is it 1 o'clock something?
115, yeah.
1:15. It should be a great game. It's really two talented groups of kids. Folks, that's Elliot Steinmetz, a multiple time QCast guest, and always great to have on the show. Coach, best of luck to you on Friday. Okay.
Thank you. Good luck to Illinois Wesleyan.
Thanks, bud. We'll talk soon.